Hello and welcome to a discussion on capital leases. Watching this video will help prepare you for class. It is important that you view this before class so we can learn more together in class. After viewing this video, you will be able to state and record the four main lease transactions. You will also be able to compute depreciation expense on a lease and compute a lease payment amount. There are four main transactions that occur with a lease. The lessor transfers the asset to the lessee. The lessee makes a payment to the lessor. Payments are usually made at the beginning of the period. Payments can be made monthly, quarterly, or annually. Interest is recorded at the end of the period, and depreciation expense is recorded by the lessee at the end of the period. Payments, interest, and depreciation are recorded every period. Let's look at the debits and credits used to record the four main transactions. First, the asset is transferred to the lessee. An asset and a liability to make payments to the lessor is recorded by the lessee, similar to purchasing the asset with financing. The lessor removes the asset and records a receivable for the payments they expect to receive over the life of the lease. The amount is the cost of the asset to the lessee. At the beginning of each period, the lessee pays the lessor, and the liability and receivable are reduced for the full amount of the payment. The payment is for the principal owed and interest. However, no time has passed yet, and no interest has been incurred or earned. Therefore, the entire amount reduces the liability and receivable. Let me say this again. No time has passed, and no interest is recorded until the end of the period after time has passed. At the end of the period after time has passed, the interest expense is incurred by the lessee and interest revenue is earned by the lessor. The interest was previously paid with the cash payment at the beginning of the period. As such, there is no interest payable or interest receivable. The portion of the payment that was for interest is moved back into the liability and the receivable. The lessee has the asset on their balance sheet. Therefore, the lessee has to record depreciation expense. Depreciation expense is recorded using the straight line method, which is cost less residual value divided by useful life. The useful life and residual value depends on the terms of the lease. The life should be the number of years the lessee intends to use the asset. The useful life will be the life of the lease if the asset will be returned to the lessor at the end of the lease. Useful life will be the life of the asset if the lessee keeps the asset and continues to use it after the lease ends. Guaranteed residual value is the only residual value that is subtracted from cost. The lessee is recording the depreciation expense, and guaranteed residual value is the only residual value the lessee is responsible for. We will discuss the difference in guaranteed and unguaranteed in the next video. The periodic lease payment covers both the cost of the asset and the interest. A formula is used to compute a lease payment when the lease payment is not stated. Begin with the cost of the asset to the lessee. Subtract the present value of the residual value or a bargain purchase option. These two items will be paid at the end of the lease and therefore are not included in the lease payment. If they were, they would be paid twice. This is the amount the lease payments will cover. Divide by the present value of an annuity factor, which adds the interest at the given rate, to get the total payment amount that will pay for the cost of the asset plus interest. After viewing this video, you should be able to state and record the four main lease transactions. You should also be able to compute depreciation expense on a leased asset and compute a lease payment amount. There are several different types of capital leases. We will continue our discussion on capital leases and work through an example in the next video. Thank you for taking the time to be prepared for class. It will help you a lot and it is very much appreciated.